Hey everybody, today I'm reviewing Julia's rigging reel through the eyes of a supervisor or a lead looking to hire for a project. So let's watch it first and then I'll give some critique. Okay, awesome. Straight away I can see that it's about 1:30, which is great. I wouldn't say rigging reel should be any longer than that. You can definitely squeeze your best work in that time, so just anyone watching this, make sure it's short and concise like Julia's. I also don't mind the backing track. Normally when I'm reviewing reels, I would turn off the backing track just so I can watch more attentively what's happening. And I can see for the most part, you just have Play Blast inside Maya, which is great, honestly. I'm hiring you to be a rigger, so I want to make sure that I can see behind the scenes, the inner workings of how you're building your rig. So this is great. I'd say if you have some renders are a great eye catcher to start a reel, something really eye-popping straight away. But if you don't have anything like that, this is fine as well. I'm more than happy to see just Play Blast inside Maya. So let's go to the first thing. These guys. They're looking pretty great, actually. I like how you have understanding of, control philosophy. You have different colors for different sides. You have yellow as the center color, and then the controls also conform pretty well to the shape of the character. And I'd say you want to make sure that, like you've done here, the controls are sort of localized to help animators understand what they're going to be moving around when they pick up a control. So that's really cool. The circle world controls down here, for the most part, you want to make sure they're accessible in all different angles. Animators, might be in front view for a bit of their shot or side view, and you want to make sure they can still access that control from all different angles. So try and make those world controls more 3D. Cool. Let's just see the range of motion on these guys. Yeah, that's not too bad. I like seeing rigs that are pushed quite a lot. I'm sort of hoping that I see rigs pushed to extremes in real, so I can really understand how it's holding together with some complex animation. So I like seeing things moving around. I also like here the single joint chain skeleton, thinking about game export and Unreal and stuff like that. I'm pretty big on this. I don't see this too much, but showing an understanding of what it takes to make exportable skeletons for game engines, that's a big plus. And global scale support, I want to see that on all rigs ultimately. Like I don't want to see a rig that's going to break when you scale up and down, because what animators are going to do in production is they're going to have to conform the rig to different proportions based on the shot. They're going to have to cheat the size quite a lot to make it work for their shots. So every rig in production has to be supported by global scaling. Like so. Okay, on this one, get rid of all the keyframes on here. It's just a polish note, but when animators receive a rig for the first time, like this is all going to be clear of keyframes. So we just want to make sure we're showing that as well when you're playing your rig back. Visibility is also normally hidden for animators, so you can just take this off the channel here. I like these attributes here. They're quite easy to read. Volume, stretch, amount, just say the full word. Don't worry about, making an acronym or shortening the word, just say the full amount. You want to make sure that animators know exactly straight away what something's going to do when they're moving it. So don't try and shorten it for the sake of shortening it. Just make sure it's clear as possible. Okay, I'm seeing here on the tail, it's sort of sinking into the spikes are sinking into the tail bit when it's moved around. Yeah, and here they're going as well. Just make sure, another polish note, that you're copying one-to-one from whatever you have on your base mesh onto the extras, like, spikes and clothing and stuff like that. You want to make sure that you have a really strong foundation, which is your body mesh, and then you just copy that skin cluster onto clothes and other things like that. So it's very consistent when skinning is deformed. I like this a lot, the blink attribute, the eye expressions. I think that's cool and a bit different. I want to push for very different in rigging reels because there's so many people these days doing a lot of the same things, which is making it hard to stand out. So different things like showing off an eye expression here is pretty cool. And I think your character works well for that. Okay, this guy, again, I would make sure this world control is accessible in all different axes. Clavicle lock, I'm not sure exactly what it is. Is it just like a parent constraint or something like that? That's a space switch, rather, that's switching between modes of the shoulder. If that's all it is, I wouldn't have it in the reel. It's something that's sort of a given for riggers applying for entry-level positions. And just make sure you have the keyframes turned off as well on those attributes. Spine is fine if it's down here, but I'd say when animators are actually wanting to make interesting shapes with the rig, they're going to want some extra controls up here. So even if these are your main controls down here, your chest and your pelvis, make sure you're giving a few extra controls up here so animators can actually move around the whole torso and create interesting shapes. Spikes stick to mesh with constraints. I would blow away the constraints, honestly. For the most part, animation's not going to mind if you're copying from the body onto, like I was saying, other pieces of geometry like spikes or clothes. You just want to make sure that it's sort of moving one-to-one with whatever the body's doing. Using constraints when it's just spikes like this are probably going to slow down the rig, and anything we can do to stop rigs getting too bloated and too heavy too fast, we always aim for that. We can always iterate on top of our rigs for the next publish, Some rigs I work with have hundreds of publishes based on animation feedback. So keep it simple to start with, and then we can always work up from there as animation give feedback. I wouldn't bother showing off the FK for the tongue and the teeth. It's just a given, again, that you can do FK and IK setups. Eye space switching, it's fine. If you can find something a bit more interesting as well, I would want to include that in there, probably over this, because I see a lot of similar setups and rigging reels showing off space switching for, the eyes and legs and different things. Yeah. I really like the fleshy eye system here. And I like signaled attributes here as well. This is really awesome. I would say if it was used in production, animators would be grabbing a main lookout control for the eye and moving that around. They probably wouldn't be tweaking these lids too much for the shot. They want to keep it as simple as possible. So what I'd try and show off mostly here is how the lid actually reacts when the control is being moved around, like a lookout control. Not so much you actually grabbing the lids and moving it around, but how it's deforming as the eye moves around. That's, I think, more important than showing off all these different movements here. Just another polish note, make sure these controls conform to the shape of the body or the head. If this is the head control, make sure it's not, penetrating too much into the geo. But it's also good you're differentiating the shape here compared to the neck control, so that's cool. Finger curling it's okay. Again, maybe Something interesting would be having like a world control that you move around for all the fingers at once. My rigs for Built by Colossus have this. It's just one control that animators can twist or scale, and it sort of will move all the fingers at once for really quick posing. Breathing controls cool. Foot roll and bank controls, I see it a lot in Reels. You can leave it in there, but it's also a given that you can do this. I'd suggest maybe coding it through like a small rig builder. To be able to do this through code would be a lot more impressive, and I don't see that too often. So that'd be something to think about. Maybe reconstruct this through code, because I see later on that you do code a bit as well. So think about that. Pole vector space switching, sure, it's okay. For the tail, I like how you're swapping to a different shape for the IK tail. I'd say the shape is okay, the squares are okay. Just make sure you're conforming them to the perpendicular to the tail, so they're not sort of in world space, they're actually rotated to be facing down the tail. Just so animation, they have a better manipulator to start with. They're not sort of having to counter rotate and different things like that. The rotation axis is correct to start with. I wouldn't turn these blue. I would keep them as yellow. The shape changes enough to differentiate them, and it just keeps it consistent with the middle of the character as well. Dynamic tail, love it. That's great. I like it. I like this stuff on the side as well. I wouldn't say animation would use this too much for the most part, but I say it's cool to flex stuff like this, so why not? Yep, I like this script. This is cool. It's a bit busy though, everything here. I'm not sure exactly what I'm looking at. Maybe if you're in guide state, show the guides, but if you're in rig state, make sure you're only showing what the rig is. You're not showing like extra details that aren't actually moving anymore. So just make it very clear to the viewer what's going on. Because me, if I'm reviewing this rig, I'm sort of a bit confused as what I'm looking at. I would have to, if you get an interview, I'd have to ask you in an interview to explain this a bit more. And I'd love to just know by looking at a reel what's happening. And these joints down here, I'm not exactly sure what they're doing, so I'll just hide them all, honestly. Yeah, cool. Squash and stretch as well. I think that's awesome. This is a really cool setup, and it's showing off a lot, which is great. I mean, every rigger should have some type of code in the reel, because they will be expected to know how to code in production. Like every few rigs that come along in production, you're going to need to be coding something by hand for the most part. No rig build is perfect, so showing off your coding knowledge is definitely a leg up. Yeah, sweet. Cool, Julia. That's a really cool reel. It's just some polish to be done on that, some ideas you can take away from it as well. And I hope you enjoyed this. For anyone else who's looking for a demo reel review, or a rig review even, I got a form in the comments, so please fill out the form, and I can take a look at your reel or rig. And also, I'm thinking of putting together a small private group where I'd be able to sort of review your rigs and reels more consistently. So if you're interested in joining a private group like that as well, also let me know in the form. Cool. See you guys.